Hey, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Curation. I'm Polydub, and joining me, as always, is Inquisitor 8.1. Quiz, how are you on our not regularly scheduled Friday evening broadcast?
I'm tired, but I'll deal.
Nice. And joining us is Jack from Good Comic Reviews. Jack, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You just gonna let that slide?
Yep.
Oh.
Just gonna let it hang there in the air.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
I was hoping for some bants, but fine.
Nope. Denied.
I feel so unsatisfied from that. I can't. Oh,
Good.
All right. So sorry, banging the microphone and everything. So yeah, old grouchy gamer's not wrong. It's about time. I hear you. Not only are we late today, we're 2 days late. Would it be 2 or 3 days late from Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. We're really late either way.
We're extremely late either way, which I do apologize for and take the full responsibility for. I was extremely sick on Wednesday, and then it bled on into Thursday, and I am still medicated and feeling off today, but I wanted to do it because there's plenty to talk about, and I said I would, and these guys are awesome, and they were willing to reschedule with me for Friday, so I thought, hey, fuck it, let's do it. So yeah, again, what's that? Sorry?
Room's not spinning for you.
It's wobbling.
Wobbly.
But yeah, I am right full of antihistamines and decongestants to help the room from not spinning, but it's not working. So any and all things that I say that are racist or insulting, I take no responsibility for.
Yeah, blame the Ambien. It's fine.
That's right. I will blame the Ambien. I don't have any Ambien. I don't get fun drugs from my doctor, man. He's a total prude.
I know.
Anyway. I thought you said Indian. I was like, oh, we're going to talk about that Catholic school thing again?
Yeah, Jack was pushing it hard to put that as the put a reference to that as the title.
Did you guys want to talk about the Covington Catholic School controversy over the MAGA hats and Nathan Phillips, Indian elder? There, I said it. I can put it in the
description. Yeah,
yep. Yeah. We talked about it. It happened.
Yeah.
Well, I think Apache Chief is definitely weeping. What was Apache Chief's power word that he used to grow?
Isn't it like Alexa or something like that? Wasn't it?
Something made up. I don't know.
Let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up because I want to be.
Now, for the audience's sake, I said that Apache Chief should be standing in a field of mega hats with a tear coming down his eye as the thumbnail. But no.
Did Apache Chief had a white wolf named Timber, or was that Snake Eyes?
That was Snake Eyes.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how you got those.
And how could we possibly forget his power words are Enook-chuck.
Enook-chuck. See, I said Alexa. I faded memories from watching Super Friends as a kid. That's as good as I could get. Oh, Jean, or is it Jean? Got it actually.
I think it's
kind of.
Look at that, and Grand Pirate Pete got it. Fuck, you guys are. I'm impressed with our audience. It's actually
spelled. Here, I'll post it in chat. It's actually spelled that way. It's Enook-chuck.
Enook-chuck. Okay.
Is a Nook like some Eskimo kid that he hates?
Well, believe it or not, he's actually supposed to be from Nunavut. So yeah.
He's Nunavut? The Canadian territory?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. It's sort of an obscure reference. Let's get. I mean, sure. Everyone's got to be from somewhere, but wow. All right. In any case, speaking of our audience, looking here to do roll call. Mule 1066 always here first. My God, we should be able to double wrench people. Some people deserve it. Got some asshole named Bad Comic Review Streams. Mike Parlett. Hey, Mike Parlett. We were talking earlier in Tug's stream. That's awesome. He's here.
Yeah, Mike's good dude.
Yeah. Frosted Glasses here. Super cool. Flair Fritz thinks this stream is gay. Right back at you, buddy. Gene, old grumpy gamer. Number one nowhere. Johnny Hellcat's here. That's sweet Mr. Dax. This is Kyle. And Chaos Eve. Hey, everyone's here. Yay.
Ryan Walters and Shady are here.
Oh, fucking nice.
And
The whole gang.
Oh, and Peter's here. Hey, Peter.
And we got a thumbs down already. Awesome.
Excellent. And, we got 16 watching. So that was Fritz. I got a feeling that Fritz started that downvote.
The downvote? Yeah, it was Fritz.
Yeah. And if you're part of our awesome audience, not the one person who downvoted us, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Where do we want to get started? Oh, I remember the conversation we were having right before we went live. And I said, no, let's take that conversation live. So when I was very, very medicated last night, I had a conversation, a brief one with Quiz over in Discord, and I ended up babbling about the moment that I knew that Marvel Comics was irredeemable. Because you always kind of hold on that hope, like, oh, maybe they'll fire all of them. Maybe it's not a culture that permeates the place, if you know what I mean. It's just a few stray writers, some assholes on Twitter. They've got bad social media management there. You know what I mean? Like various explanations that can account for it. But then there comes that moment where you know it's too far gone. That no, it's absolutely permeated the whole place. Something radical is going to have to happen, like an entire company restructuring for them to change their direction. And I know what my answer was. Quiz, what was your answer again? Because I was, again, really heavily medicated at the time. Still
Civil War.
No, I said mine was the final. No, listen, I said mine was the final kick to the balls. You described when you noticed something was going wrong. That's the first kick to the balls.
Okay. The moment I noticed something was M-Day. The moment where it all had gone completely, batshit was Civil War, period. There's no going back from that.
You think the entire story was
Civil War is irredeemable garbage?
Really? I don't know. Yes. I think the core of the story worked. What?
The whole premise behind it, just being Iron Man versus Captain America and getting people to go on their side, is fine. But when you get into why they're having the fight and specifically who joins the fight, like the end of it is when Steve Rogers gets a bullet to the head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
The biggest casualty of Civil War was the XMen.
No, the biggest casualty was people's wallets.
Well, that too. No one should buy that comic. Everyone who writes that comic should never touch the pen again.
You don't think the core idea of Splody Man killing a whole bunch of kids, and then it comes to this decision of like, we need to be unmasked. It needs to be regulated. You don't think that that's a viable idea inside of a superhero universe? I do. Like, that's what I mean when I say core idea.
The X-Men, through the entirety of their being in the 90s, kept on pushing this whole idea of the Mutant Registration Act and fighting against the Mutant Registration Act. Okay? It started with even books like God Loves, Man Kills. Okay? Trask was a character in that, as well as the I can't remember the preacher's name now. Shit, the evangelist that would espouse about how dangerous and satanic mutants were. But there was all of this backstory, several different stories, all written by the great Chris Claremont, all about the X-Men and mutants pushing against the idea of registering them as living weapons. How does that follow then that they would join Tony Stark's side?
Because everybody's coming out, not just them. I'm not looking to defend it. It's just like you asked there.
That is like I said, the major casualty out of all of this is having the X-Men Act entirely out of character. And
I think they did
no. The mutants were being singled out as genetic freaks that needed to, and once they were registered,
but the way it was handled,
subject to arrest and imprisonment.
But the way it was handled in the story, they were doing the same thing with anyone with superpowers. They were sending them off to a Guantanamo in limbo. If you didn't register, you got sent off to Reed Richards' Supermax prison in limbo. Which, if they really wanted to have a good storyline, would have been attacked by a nihilist. And by the way, there was no punishment for that war crime either. So
all I'm saying is that the biggest crime to me is when they have a character act out of character. and they could not have done that worse to the X-Men than Civil War.
Thank you, Peter, for the donation on Streamlabs. My first contribution to the JC. Remember, $5 USD is like $7 Aussie, so I'm even more generous than it seems. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Jeez.
And that's why Civil War is the worst comic ever made, and everyone who made it should feel bad.
Now, Civil War, I was running my shop when that came out. And when they killed Captain America, I put the comic into the discount bin, and I walked away for 10 years. That was it. I stepped away from comics for 10 years. I think I bought maybe 3 comic books in that time. And each time I was like, I just gave it away after I was done with it. It was like, fuck this. I'm not.
Wow. You guys are like having strong reactions to a comic book arc. Like, I mean, listen, I put up with fucking the Clone Saga, and that went on forever in a fucking day.
Yeah, but that was a handful of titles. This was a major event that changed the landscape of Marvel. Not only did you kill Captain America, they killed Goliath and several other characters. They canceled titles. They dragged it out for months and months beyond what it should have gone. And there were all those peripheral titles like Frontline and all the tie-ins. And people were sinking money into it and getting more and more frustrated because there were constant delays. There were variant covers that were costing them a fortune. And it really made people jaded. That was the beginning of where you're at now, in my opinion, from a retail standpoint. I saw a lot of people that I knew for years as a comic shopper and as a retailer that were becoming very disenchanted with Marvel's predatory practices. And they were comparing that to the 90s. I mean, that was the precedent for what they're doing now for the crossovers. Everything they did during Civil War, they're still doing now, but on a multiplied level. They didn't learn anything in that time period, except how to milk more money out of your wallet.
Yeah. And, well, I can't remember. Did M-Day come before or after or even during Civil War? Because that was another one that really pissed me off.
I'm pretty sure that was before. Let me look.
Yeah. It was in 2005.
Yeah, it was like a year or two before, or 2 years before.
Yeah, and if for those that don't know what M-Day was, is it was part of the Decimation storyline. Essentially, they dropped Asteroid M on Genosha. Was it Asteroid M? I think it was Asteroid M.
I think it was Asteroid M.
Well, I thought Asteroid M was it moved to San Francisco? Because I know the X-Men are now in San Francisco. Either way, something happened in Genosha. The whole island was destroyed. But I think didn't that lead to or no, was that in Civil War when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants?
No, that was that's how M-Day started, or House of M started.
House of M, okay. Yeah. Storyline focuses on the ramifications of the Scarlet Witch stripping nearly all of the mutant population of their powers, thereby reducing the society of millions to one of scant hundreds. Like, the whole idea behind the X-Men is the fact that this is, an out-of-control, rampant sort of thing that's happening amongst the population that no one can predict, and everyone has to sort of find a way to deal with it. The fact that they put in a Deus Ex Machina of Scarlet Witch was something that to me was just a line too far. First of all, it made Scarlet Witch ridiculously powerful to be able to halt the progress of human evolution. And two, it really killed the whole ambition and drive of the X-Men. It was awful. Like, everything about M-Day, House of M, and Civil War is just one after the other after the other. They're just constantly shitting on the X-Men. And beat this drum, but this is exactly the problem I had, because the only, and I'm sorry to say this, but with only a few other things other than the X-Men, namely Spider-Man and Punisher, I could give a shit about the Marvel Universe. I don't care. I don't care about Fantastic Four. I don't care about fucking the Avengers. I've never given a shit about Iron Man. The only thing that made me give a shit about Iron Man was the fact that they got Robert Downey Jr. to play him in the movies. That was when I started actually caring about Iron Man. And that's only for the movies, of which I've stopped going to see.
Well, I think if I really had to pinpoint when I decided that Marvel was kind of past the Rubicon, I would have a hard time saying a specific issue, but if I had to choose and you forced me, I would say it was that X-Men Annual 1 that just came out like a year ago.
Really? That recently? Okay.
Yeah. That's when because like I took that big 10 as into comics for a long time, and well, I guess it was closer to 11 years, but I just thought, well, you know, maybe they'll get better. Sobalski, maybe he could clean this up, blah, blah, blah. You hold out hope. But when I read that issue, I was like, oh, they're fucked. But honestly, I think there is some hope.
Why particularly? X-Men Annual 1. Why?
It was so terribly written.
Because it was just terribly written, and it was an annual number 1, and therefore a milestone shouldn't suck. Like
well, their milestones should suck, but it was so much identity politics jammed into one book. It's so arrogant. That's where when I first thought up the term SJW chick track. Because it read like religious literature.
Right.
It was an irreligious book with a total socio-political religion underlying it that didn't used to be in comics. As you know, there was always some political messaging, you know, anti-war stuff, that sort of thing. But this was heavy-handed, and it read like I was reading something put out by the Catholic Church. Just is substitute Jesus for intersectionality, and that's what it felt like to me. That's the moment I realized they'd probably gone well beyond what they could be brought back from. Like Civil War was a big wake-up call for me. I hated everything about it, and I hated a lot of the subsequent storylines that I've read that came out, but there was always a little more glimmer of hope.
I find that interesting that you guys took those two answers. Well, Quiz not so much. I mean, he's to the point where I would almost recommend, you know, loss and grief therapy for Quiz. What happened to the X-Men?
Yes,
the consistency and the unwavering amount of grief that he expresses when talking about.
Yeah, you could hang out with Frank Castle in group therapy for
people. I know, right? Well, you know, I'd rather take Frank Castle up on his nightly excursions, but no, like, see, the thing about it is that, like, you've got to remember, the X-Men is what I grew up reading, man. I only read the X-Men when it came to the comics. The entirety of my childhood was spent reading nothing but X titles. I didn't get anything else. It wasn't until, I think, Wildcats that I bought any other comics. So, you know, seeing the fact that X-Men isn't making Marvel, or namely the Mouse, movie money, meant that they, like, I in my opinion, this is what I think happened. Editorial at Marvel got an edict from on high to say, fuck over the X-Men, remove the X-Men from, like, all cultural awareness, and push the ones that are making us movie money. So they did everything in their power to ruin the X-Men over the course of, you know, 10 years. Yeah,
absolutely. And I blame actually a lot of that on Axel Alonso. I think he didn't like the X-Men to begin with. And they told him to downplay it, and he took that as destroy them.
Yeah.
That's how I'd be willing to bet they did it. Because, I mean, they still could make money off of some property that they don't have the film rights to. There's other ways of making revenue. So
well, you know what? Here's the thing. Okay. Chaos Eve raises an interesting point here. She says, I mean, you're not wrong. It's just hard to see something from your childhood that you love destroyed. Okay, it is. But I have had to live for, I don't know, since 2009. So coming on 10 years now with bad Star Trek, with Star Trek that's been fucked in the ass. Okay. That's where the phrase headcanon comes from. I have my own headcanon. Like I've made up my own canon and explained away
like
why.
Suicide gun.
No, well, sometimes it feels that way. But it's like, how do you I always tell it to Zelthor over in Discord. He's like, oh, I don't know what to do with The Last Jedi. And it's like, what do you mean? They're really expensive fanfic films. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, that's how you do it, man. It's like, yeah, but it's canon. Not in your head. It's not. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there's only 6 Star Wars.
You can't steal my thoughts yet, mouse.
You can't beam thoughts in here.
Disney trademarked my brain.
Well, but you see the point. Like, if you don't want it, like that was one thing that I could sort of give a pass to when it came to the JJ verse. It was happening in the so-called Kelvin timeline. Yeah, it's an alternate timeline. So everything that happens there is just sort of like, oh yeah, something fucked up in history, and that's why everything's suddenly very explodey, and nobody's vision can stay steady, and there's lens flares everywhere.
There's lens flare. Everything's so shiny.
Yeah, and nobody can walk. Everyone has to run everywhere they go in a high-paced, because like that's because they're trying to make Star Trek into an action film. And I actually don't hate those films. They're just not. Yeah, okay, this isn't a Star Trek stream. The point is, sometimes you got to live with what's going on with comic book characters. But or what's going on with characters you loved from your childhood. But that's not exactly what's going on that's causing the response of Comicsgate. It's more than that. We have to change around, denigrate, ensoyify, gender flip, change identities on your characters. We have to make them say things they would never say, completely out of character. We have to rearrange anything and everything and then replace them. And then in the worst cases, replace them because the point was they never were worthy. Things like Thor, ultimately he was unworthy. So Jane Foster had to take over the mantle of Thor. And he never really was Thor. He was just the guy who currently possessed the hammer, thus power of Thor. And it's like, Bruce Banner was never the... What's that?
Didn't she have a brain tumor? Shouldn't she be dead?
Yeah, lots of people should be dead.
Better.
Well, no, but you see my point is that it's with Comicsgate, like it feels a lot worse. Like they're doing it to the characters in a really hard way, if only to replace them. We talk a lot about replacement theory here. We want the same audience, that's been buying the Hulk or Iron Man or Spider-Man or whatever to continue to buy the comic because it says Iron Man or Hulk or Thor or whatever on the cover. So the idiots will keep buying it. But really, we've changed everything but the title of the character. You know what I mean? And in the case of Riri Williams becoming Ironheart, we've even changed the name of the character, but we haven't changed the title of the series. We still call it Iron Man. My God.
Yeah.
My God. It's just because so you drooling idiots will keep buying it because they know a lot of comic book fans are continuity hounds. We need to, I bought issue 657. What? I'm not going to buy a 658 and 659? No, of course I am. You can't have like this big gap. To which I always say, yeah, you know what? If you want to stop buying a series, stop buying it. Don't give them your $4 an issue. And then when and if it ever recovers, go back and buy them when they're 1/3 the cover price because they never were able to sell and now they're in the dollar bin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how could I put up with a gap in there? It won't be a gap forever. You'll be able to go back and fill it in when it's 1/3 the cover price. But don't buy them new, man.
That was the first thing I got over about 10 years ago 15 years ago. I stopped caring about having gaps in my collection because you have to.
Yeah.
You just have to. I mean, anymore, it's just not worth it to try and get every single issue when you're not going to go back and reread them. What's the point? It's just taking up a ton of space and resources. That's what you could be spending on something better.
We're nerding the fuck out here. We're all over the place. So let me reapply some structure to our conversation here, if I may. We were talking about when we all thought Marvel had gone off the deep end. Quiz thought it was the Civil War 2. Jack thought it was with the new XMen annual number 1. I think it's when they gave Ta-Nesihi Coates writing for Captain America. Not that it was so terrible, but just that decision in and of itself and the virtue signal that it represented and how much they promoted the fact that we just scored Ta-Nesihi Coates. It's like, oh, the comic book writer? No, he could be described as a lot of things. As a journalist, he's chief editor of The Atlantic. He's a far lefty. He's, in my opinion, a hardcore race baiter. He's a racist man. I don't really think there's any question about that. If you ever read his book, and I certainly don't recommend that you do, but Jesus, what's it called? Between Me and the World, Between Me, Myself, and the World.
Yeah, I read it. It's terrible.
Between the World and Me. There, I just looked it up. I read it, and it's shocking the amount of racism that he passes off as a realistic worldview. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, this is your own personal chip on your own personal shoulder, and you ascribe this view as being a view of African Americans that many African Americans will identify with. And it's like, I didn't realize that all Black people were in mental commune with each other. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, they're not. You're right. You're speaking way out of the topic, way over the league. Your megaphone's outsized. It's, what are you doing writing a comic now? Like, yes, he's a professional writer. There's no question at that. And I've read his stuff, and he's actually not that bad of a writer. He's a pretty gifted writer when he's not going crazy. He's actually better, I think, at fiction than he is at nonfiction.
Yeah, well, his style of writing is more poetic, and that doesn't translate real well to comic books. It comes off as kind of artsy, and you're not going to retain a lot of people's interest with that. It just doesn't work.
Now, it's not like he hadn't written a comic book before. He absolutely had. Most recently, before he was writing Captain America, was the completely failed and transparent as fuck Black Panther and the Crew.
Yeah. Which was racist, yeah.
Oh, dude. For those of you who don't know, like, you think we're making this stuff up. Like, we're not. I wish we were. Chat. So Ta-Nesihi Coates wrote a series called Black Panther and the Crew. It was basically taking the majority of African-American superheroes that were more well-known inside the Marvel universe, gathering them all together and having them in Harlem sort of as a crew. And you couldn't call it like Black Panther and like so you got the XMen, and they're named the XMen, right? You got like Spider-Man villains, and they're called the Sinister Six because there's 6 of them. You know, he went with that urban vibe and called it Black Panther and the Crew. I'm like, that right off the bat is corny as fuck. Ta-Nesihi. Like, that's just like, that's really lame. And I get comic books are supposed to have a corny edge to them, but Jesus Christ, man. But anyway, he remember the AmeriCops? Like, I'm just going over all the Jesus. The whole story is about so you've got Aurora, Storm from the X-Men, who has in Marvel continuity a previous relationship with T'Challa, Black Panther, and they're together and they're posing as a married couple in one issue to go to try and get an apartment to see if they're attempting to gentrify the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, it's on that level. And it's like, T'Challa is the king of Wakanda. He's also the head of state of Wakanda. He's the head of untold amount of resources. His concerns are global. Like, that's how Black Panther fights, right? He's like Dr. Doom in that way. He's the head of state of a nation, so his concerns are global and international, and it's always about international conspiracies.
Related to, like, his continent.
Yeah, like they, you know, but
apartment hunting.
But they'll call, like, Fantastic Four will call him in if it's something like between nations and stuff, because he's a powerful dude that can get things done in 2 ways. He can kick some ass, and he's also a powerful, extremely wealthy man. It's like calling an Iron Man. You get a lot done. You know what I mean? In 2 different ways. And this guy's going to see if you're gentrifying Harlem. You got Storm, who has like the power over weather, extremely powerful mutant, and she's checking on rents. And the thing is, the American government put in robot police officers called AmeriCops that like patrol the streets, and they're programmed to racially profile. And
oh, it's so real to life. That's the world outside your window, Polly.
It's the so this is Ta-Nesihi Coates' idea of how to translate his racist, well, extremely race-focused worldview, to translate that into comics. That everything is about what's going on through his race-focused lens. Now that guy worries me, man. And that's the guy, when that series, Black Panther and the Crew, failed, that they put him to write Captain America. Now, what am I trying to say there? Because I want to put the things down. No, it's not because he's black that he can't write the ultimate white guy Captain America. No, not at all. It's just, do you even like the character? Because this guy, in his memoirs, because he's often called a memoirist, goes on and on about how he hates the idea of America. America's founded on nothing but racism and denigration, and it's built upon the death of people, and it goes around the globe causing wars on poor indigenous communities. Like, dude, you really don't like America at all, any of its freedoms or its ideals, and those freedoms and ideals are really like band-aids to cover up the hemorrhages of the wounds that it's caused on the world. Like, the man just goes on, and you put that guy to write the living symbol of America, Captain America.
Well, that's
really
why the current storyline is called Captain of Nothing.
Yeah, right. Say the one that really kind of shocks me though is to switch a tack for a bit. What about Aubrey Sitterson getting G.I. Joe?
Same concept.
Just as bad.
Yeah. A stated socialist guy who doesn't like militaries at all put on a military action comic. Like, what the fuck?
Well,
socialist doesn't like America.
Yeah.
They purposely make the books boring and uninteresting and make people act out of character. And it's done intentionally to deconstruct or destroy the characters. And then they can cancel it without fear and say, oh, well, that just doesn't sell anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, did you hear that G.I. Joe is losing money? No, Aubrey Sitterson is losing money.
Yeah. I just scrolled back, like, because I see a bunch of questions popping up that I'm missing, and apologize for that. I just popped out chat, so I should have a better eye on it now. This is Kyle asked a while back. Is that the guy who made Cap a Nazi? No, it's not. Not
ta-nesihi. I answered that a little bit later.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
The guy who did that was Nick Spencer in Secret Wars.
Jean's got a question for you about Spock.
I'm curious why Mike Parlett just said Wu-Tang Clan out of nowhere, but that's great.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
It's for the crew. For a crew, Polly.
Okay. Thoughts on Star Trek Discovery giving Spock a beard? It's a ripoff of Mirror Mirror when Spock had a goatee. I don't know. I just think they're...
Are they in the evil universe?
No, they're not. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Well, they're not saying they are.
But I had to talk about that with somebody. I am fully expecting them to pimp that out too, because they have to mine all of the creative material from the centric universe, from like whatever you want to call it. Because like, there's a Kelvin timeline. What's the regular one? Just call it the regular timeline. I guess you would call it like the Jonathan Archer timeline, because that's the only of the original series or films that is unaffected by what happened in the Kelvin timeline. It's the only one where everything's still the same, because the events of the JJ verse happen after Star Trek Enterprise with Captain Archer. Anyway,
why don't you just call it the JJ verse?
Why did I just call it that?
No, why don't you just call it?
I don't know, because the name, the Kelvin timeline, stuck.
Well, I think it's mainly because it shows that there's a deviation in the timeline.
Yeah, and it's an in-universe reference as opposed to a production reference.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the core concept of that movie. So,
you know, if the USS Kelvin hadn't been destroyed, the timeline wouldn't have diverted the way that it did. Is kind of the idea. Yeah. In any case, Jean, I have no hope for Star Trek Discovery. I mean, it's fuckered beyond belief. The people that are running it are a bunch of clowns. There must be 5 circuses in town. Like, it's fuck it. Like, I mean, seriously, I gave up all hope on it. And I think you also asked previously, what are my thoughts on the new series on Picard? We don't talk about that.
We'll see if that,
because it's just every Trek fan has their fingers secretly crossed, but we're all just expecting the worst because we've been conditioned over the past decade to expect the worst. So, you know,
you would think that over the years, seeing how much money they're making, they would have acquired all the rights behind the scenes for the original series before going into production. so they could secure all this shit and be like, oh no, we're not going to make a new series. Why don't we take that off your hands? And then they could just go with the original uniforms and everything. It would have been a lot easier, and they would have been losing money like they are.
Well, for those of you who don't know in chat, like one of the, it's not really Star Trek nerdery. It's more like what's going on in and around it. The series Star Trek Discovery on CBS's streaming service, which was supposed to be their flagship show that was going to launch their streaming service into success. Their streaming service is suffering horribly. Star Trek Discovery is a complete fucking failure. Netflix virtually paid for the first season of Star Trek Discovery, even with its massive budget, by licensing it to be able to show it on Netflix. Now they're going into season 2, and Netflix opted not to buy season 2 because season 1 was such a spectacular flop. No one liked it. No one watched it. You know, Star Trek fans watched it, were brutally disappointed and stopped, and no new people came in because the audience at large doesn't really care if you pass the Bechdel test in the first scene of the first episode. They don't care. You know what I mean? And they're still doing it. Like if you type in Star Trek Discovery and you read articles, it's all of the actors and writers talking about, well, the people who don't like this tend to be racists who don't like a woman being in command. And Michelle Yeoh is in her own spin-off series now that they're planning. And that's the response. Like,
with gender, what is racism?
No, it's got nothing to do with nothing, right? But they're like there's articles, and don't believe me, you know, do your own research. If you search it up, Michelle Yeoh's new spin-off series, and it had a strong negative reaction, like meaning you're taking characters that nobody gives a fuck about, that are poorly developed, that have no arcs. Michelle Yeoh is a great actress, but not terribly interesting in this role because the writing is shit and the universe that she's in is shit. So people like the negative reaction is, instead of like trying something different or trying again, like in a different way, like you're just going to spin something off of this, acting like it was successful, because usually spinoffs of one show was a successful aspect of it. You know, something that was a fan favorite, let's make it into something new. And the response to that from all of their shill media assets out there at the garbage tier websites has been, oh, well, it's all those alt-right trolls and racists that hate it because, you know, they can't stand the fact that a woman's the captain of a ship. Look what happened to Kelly Marie Tran. And they reference it and they quote out people changed her Wikipedia page for a name being, what was it, Ting Tong Wing Wang or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, I don't know, whatever. They're never going to accept it. I just like I said to Jack before we started, everybody's making a big deal. Like we're getting off comic books, but for a second, but we're gonna get right back on.
We've been off it for like 10 minutes. Go on.
No, not well. Star Trek is real. There's Star Trek comic books.
Fair enough.
I'm okay with you getting on Star Trek, bro. I don't hate Star Trek.
Jean wants me to explain Spock to Peter because it's hard for me to explain Spock.
He's a Vulcan.
Yeah, he's a Vulcan. His father's
space elves.
His father's a Vulcan. His mother's a human. It's always been part of his character.
No, we gotta put this in non-nerd terms. Peter, he's a space elf.
Well, the difference
when no one's looking at Christmas time, he sits on a shelf and moves around complaining.
That's exactly what happens, Peter. Totally take Jack's word on this.
The difference between regular elves and Vulcans, though, is that Vulcans have like the strength of like 10 men. Elves are pansies.
Well, no, they're some of them Dark Sun elves.
No, yeah, okay, you gotta. Man, that's a deep cut, Jack. No one else is gonna get that. Wow. All right.
Yeah, some old D&D nerds out there in the audience look at it.
Some second edition D&D nerds are gonna get that one.
Yeah. Vortex is Spock on a shelf.
Oh yeah. Works for me.
Maybe there's my third idea for making
like elves with Asperger's. Good one, Ryan.
Yeah.
That could be my third way to make money off of unlicensed Star Trek products. Just like do Elf on a Shelf, but don't call it Elf on a Shelf, and just kind of put him in like a nondescript Starfleet uniform, but he sits on a shelf. People will find it hilarious and they'll know what's up and they'll buy it, but I won't have to pay CBS Paramount any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just call it Space Elf on a Shelf.
Just space. Yeah. Just put space in front of something. It's fine. No one will notice. It's a space Mickey Mouse. Go ahead, make it. No one will care.
No. Okay. See, Mickey Mouse is trademarked. If you were just to say space cartoon mouse, you might have a case.
No. Here you go. Space Elf on a bookshelf.
There you go. Space
Elf. It's different enough.
Yes.
To Paul on a pole, Mark Parlett, you're a dirty man.
Nice.
Fuck, her career fell apart rapidly, didn't it?
It happens to a lot of them.
Yeah. By that, Chad, I'm referring to the actress who played T'Pol on Star Trek Enterprise. She was like the big sexy character that was on that show. What was her name? Jolene Baylock. And she was in like a couple of B movies after that, and then nothing else. And
yeah,
that was it.
And that Bajoran chick from Next Generation, the first one they had, I forget her name now.
Oh yeah, Anson Ro Laren.
Laren, Ro Laren. Her career vanished.
Yeah, and she's actually she was on a full season at 24, and then like no major Hollywood productions, no. But she's also, if you've never seen Swimming with Sharks, that's a small movie. Oh yeah, Kevin Spacey and Cool No More. Yeah, don't go see that. Is it cool to still reference Kevin Spacey movies? It's
cool to reference Kevin Spacey movies. Just you gotta remember that he's gay, and it's all okay. It's all okay. He's gay.
Speaking of that, did you hear about the Michael Jackson documentary? That's Canes. Apparently, they had to hire a bunch of security. And my question was, what, to protect the children?
The security had canes? What'd you say?
Canes, movie festival.
I believe that's Con.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Canes.
I'm not sure if I'm an asshole for pointing it out or for you for doubling down. I don't know.
It's perfectly fine. It's played in Singapore. And it's you just got to take a couple of lashings and then you're good.
Yeah. And those lashings are in a very uncomfortable place. Like the back of a Volvo.
Jesus Christ. We will not be referencing Kevin Smith.
We already did. It's out of the bag.
Well, now that we're talking about Kevin Smith, what do you think about his idea that a Batman movie, Batman Beyond, with Michael Keaton would make $1 billion, he suggests.
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate myself on the segue to the next article. And I don't think it would make $1 billion, but go ahead, Quiz. I cut you off.
I think it has the potential. Batman Beyond was immensely popular when the cartoon was playing. I think Michael Keaton, a lot of people would love to see Michael Keaton reprising his role as Bruce Wayne. Especially now that he's old, it would make he'd be perfect casting.
For those of you in chat, hold on. For those of you in chat who don't know, Batman Beyond has a younger man playing Batman, and it's old Bruce Wayne, counseling him and advising him out of the Batcave on how to best be Batman because he's far too old and in a wheelchair to be able to do the job anymore. So he's
not in a wheelchair, but
yeah, he is. He is in the cartoon, man.
He can walk.
He is.
Walking around on with a cane.
Just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't walk. You don't think ta-nesihi can walk?
I have all 3 seasons downloaded, Polly, and I don't see him in a wheelchair in any of them.
Hold on. You
don't think
weeds here. We're talking about the article here.
You don't think ta-nesihi can walk?
I think that he might have taken one too many power bombs in his badass career.
Okay, that's all I needed. Now I can put ta-nesihi on
power
the tag.
bombs.
Fine, let's go on. I was scheming there. You couldn't tell. We got Covington Catholic boys. We got Nathan Phillips Elder. We got ta-nesihi. Donald Trump. What an asshole. Okay, now I can put Donald Trump in chat.
Yeah. And all of this is Donald Trump's fault. Anyway, Batman Beyond. I do think that Batman Beyond has potential. Seeing Michael Keaton as old man Bruce Wayne. I don't know who would play Terry McGinnis. I hope someone is, going to be good. But the problem is that Batman Beyond was a very episodic series. Like, who would be the villain for it? Would they do something like the Return of the Joker?
Well, they could just do the Joker gang takes over something and Terry has to go in and save somebody. I don't know. Like the Raid.
To me, I think the most interesting villain in Batman Beyond was Ink. She was a badass character. But I don't know. I think Batman Beyond does have the potential. I don't think it has the recognizability that that regular Batman would. billion, maybe, depending on the production and the writing.
You have to understand, like, Kevin Smith is a really optimistic guy with a lot of things, like with his own movies. Number one, that they're not going to completely bomb all the time, which they do. It's if you ever watch, his old series. Yeah, if you ever watch him talk about films, Fat Man on Batman, he loves everything comic book related. He gets really excited about it. So, you can think it would be successful, is what he means by $1 billion.
Yes,
I think it would be a very successful movie because of the success of things like Aquaman, and Batman is a beloved character. So I think some people would go into it with an open mind because it's a Batman movie in the future. And if you put enough money into the CGI effects to make it look very cool, very Tron, I think it would do pretty well. Yeah. I don't think it's $1 billion thing. I think that's hyperbolic exaggeration.
Well, like at the same time, do we think that it would be awesome if they made a movie about the 2099, series?
Yeah, I mean, that would make a really cool Netflix series.
Yeah, like who wouldn't love a cyberpunk superhero movie? Like, that would be fucking badass. And Batman Beyond is that movie. The problem again is recognizability. I don't think it's $1 billion idea. And Polly definitely hit the nail on the head about that. Kevin Smith is an extremely optimistic person. He loves absolutely everything. There's not a drop of cynicism in Kevin Smith at all, I don't think. So there's something genuine about Kevin Smith's his optimism.
Heart disease? Oh, optimism. Oh.
Yeah, his heart disease too. But there's I like Kevin Smith. It's hard to hate Kevin Smith, really. He's like, I remember his whole thing about seeing BVS. He's sitting there saying, "Well, the movie wasn't very good," but there was that one part where there was the Batman nightmare, and then you see parademons, and he was watching the movie with Jason Mewes, and they both kind of just took a gasp in the middle of the theater and go, "Parademons!" And I was like, dude, I love you, Kevin Smith. I do.
Yeah, he's not an unexcitable guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Jean suggested in the chat, it could be an animated movie. Well, I would actually do it live action. I think it would do better in the theater as live action, because animated movies still have that tinge around them that they're kids' movies to the average moviegoer. The core nerds are going to know the difference, but your average person on the street is going to look at it and be like, it's a kids' movie. But if they did it live action, I think you could get a lot of people to go see it, because if it looks cool and it's got Batman in it, that's a winning combination. Yeah. So, and Michael Keaton as old Bruce Wayne, I think would be really cool. I would definitely check it out.
Jim Healis brought up that you could make a Batman detective movie once a year without all of the major CGI shit and make $250 million on each movie easy. Make them as little noir detective movies with little Batman in them would make them cheap to produce. I don't disagree with you. I just think if you wanted that extra hook, what I think would be amazing for them to do? Elseworlds. I would love to see Holy Terror as a movie.
I think they will get to that if their movies start doing better.
Yeah.
But
well,
until
Aquaman
then,
is a good shot in the arm, so to speak.
Yeah, but Jeff Johns worked on that, and then they fired him before it came out, so he's not going to get any credit for it. So there's a good possibility they're going to fuck it up again when they get to the next movie.
Yeah. I thought you didn't like Jeff Johns.
No, I like Jeff Johns.
Oh.
I think he's a little weird looking, but I like him.
That's who you hate, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Loeb's a piece of shit, but Jeff Johns is cool. I like his work.
Hey, The Long Halloween gives him some credibility.
Agent America. I'm going to just steal Captain America with my buddy Rob Liefeld. No one will ever know.
Come on. Do you give Rob Liefeld any credit about creativity? Come on.
Speaking of Rob Liefeld, I have an article here that we should probably touch on.
I'm a fucking transition machine today.
Yeah, it's not me struggling to keep us on some kind of order or anything. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's go over to this article I wanted to talk about. Rob Liefeld has a new old character. Here it is. All right. Rob Liefeld's Extreme Universe won't be made. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong story. That's fine. We can cover this one too. Rob Liefeld is forever talking about that he's going to have
Extreme.
That Youngblood was going to be made into a movie like 100 times. He's announced this on, well, not 100 times, but a bunch of times he's talked about this in interviews, and then on Twitter he never shuts up about it. And then his Extreme Universe was Brigade was supposed to be getting funded by Netflix, and then I just read this and it's like, no, I guess not. Last year, Netflix and comics creator Rob comics related guy, I wouldn't go so far as to call him a creator, Rob Liefeld seemingly arrived at a 7-figure deal to bring his Extreme Universe to the streaming service. Goldsman from the Titans was reported as heading the writer's room for the series of films based on the comics universe. However, it appears that the deal wasn't so final after all. Leifeld made the announcement on Twitter saying, quote, "I get questions about Netflix all the time. After being at an impasse this summer, I took Extreme elsewhere and got a better deal and fit. There is no Netflix deal. More soon enough." And just, of course, like Rob, just the guy's always overpromising with his creations that are going to be made into live action stuff. It's unclear from Liefeld's last tweet if he's already found a new deal for his Extreme Universe. However, he did specify in a later tweet that it would not affect the Prophet film, which was picked up by Studio 8 last year. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Prophet is a character from Youngblood that was introduced in like Youngblood, like issue number 4. He's a stupid character. He's Captain America's storyline, basically. He's a super soldier created by the American government, top technology available at the time. They gave him a super soldier serum to make him super strong and agile. And then he was not frozen in the Arctic. Instead, he was frozen in stasis, like kept in stasis for years and years and years until the Youngblood team ends up reviving him. And now he's back in the modern day. It's like, what does that remind you of? What's that?
Who's Captain Stasis?
I said he was kept in stasis.
I thought he said Captain Stasis too. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Are you guys mocking the medicated man?
Inside of Captain Stasis?
You will not mock the medicated host. It's not funny. I'm fighting through a pharmaceutical haze to read. Leave me alone. So yeah, that's Rob fails yet again. What a surprise. What a surprise.
Rob.
Oh, Rob. Let's find that other article.
Don't we?
Yes, absolutely we do. I'm just looking for it. Hold on. That's what happens when you open 50 million tabs.
Why do you have all that soda?
I know, right? God, I could only drink one.
What are you talking about?
Tab is a soda, probably.
Oh. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I'm drinking coffee, and I am. What weirdos. All right.
How do you know what I'm drinking?
Yeah. It's like I keep saying to Chaos Eve, would you have a camera in here? What the fuck's going on? How do you know what I'm doing? All right. There's the story we want to talk about. Marvel reveals a quote.
Oh, God.
This is a tab, Polly. This is tab.
That was very 1982.
Yes.
Well, you wouldn't be wrong. Polly kept this ambiguous. He didn't want me looking at this so he could see my genuine reaction. What the fuck? Rob, no. Rob, no.
Wait till you get to see the whole cover together. Like that's part of the cover. Wait till you see the whole cover. Okay. Marvel reveals a new X-Men character created by Rob Liefeld. I'm sorry, we were just joking before stream started. Rob doesn't really create any new characters. He just sort of like mixes and mashes different characters' traits. And, like I just described, like he did with Prophet. Prophet is essentially Captain America, Steve Rogers' backstory. There's nothing really unique about him at all, except he's called Prophet and he has big shoulder pads. It's okay. Anyway, Rob Liefeld, known for creating characters such as Deadpool and Cable, is creating a new X-Men.
Hold on. No. Okay. We talked about this in chat. Rob Liefeld is creatively bankrupt, right? Rob Liefeld ripped off Deathstroke for Deadpool. Deadpool eventually became something greater than what Rob Liefeld originally created him as. Yes, because there were better writers that wrote for him. But this is yet another example of him ripping something off. Not a comic book this time, a cartoon. Okay? This is from Teen Titans.
Well, okay, let me just read the story. Let me just read the story.
Red X, which was
okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the story. To me, quote: "To me, the X-Men have always thrived on big ideas, crazy ideas. So I figured, let's just go for it." Liefeld told Entertainment Weekly. Major X, that's right, chat. His character's name is Major X. And yeah, Major X introduces a new character who is certain to mix up everything in the X world. He hails from another existence, which is called the Existence, a mutant Shangri-La, a safe haven that has been in a realm where mutant kind has lived in peace and harmony. They escaped there following a tragedy that befell mutant kind and built this community. There are some familiar faces that he has forged this other society with. But then a terrible event happens within the Existence that causes Major X to cross over and land in the Marvel universe that we know. But he doesn't land on the spot he was hoping. So in the first issue, he is in 1991. We progressively get him to where he needs to go. By the conclusion of the story, we catch up with him in modern day Marvel. So he comes in at
1991. Just stay in 1991, dude. It's not worth it.
I was going to say, so he comes in when comics were interesting and gradually he becomes a feminist.
Like partly, Major X sucks Major D.
All right, here is the cover. Let us bask in its glory. What is wrong with Wolverine's face?
Oh my god.
Well, it's the same thing well, first of all, we got two questions. One, is Speed Racer going to be upset that his brother is helping the X-Men?
Yeah.
And secondly, and most importantly, why do we need to see Beast's O-face? It looks like Beast is climaxing all over Wolverine's back right there.
Yeah, and it's Rob Liefeld has always had an upper lip space beneath the nose problem. You see it with Cable. Yes. Like, what is this? This man, like, somebody has horribly disfigured this man by severing his top lip. Yes. And unfortunately, the same fate befell Wolverine. And way to rip off Jim Lee's trick of giving Wolverine extended canines like that. But anyway,
everyone did. Yeah, everyone did that.
Really? People did that pre-Lee? Really?
Yeah. Well, Lee did it mostly. It was most notable with him, but everybody did it back then. I just want to know why there's so many problems with cleft lips in the Marvel universe, and why Cable looks like he always has to poop.
Well, you know, Beast doesn't have a cleft lip. You can actually see Beast's lip.
That's because Beast is in mid-orgasm right now, and you can't see the scar.
Because you know, Rob draws every single, like, thank God Storm is a dark-skinned lady. Otherwise, she would look like every single other lady that Rob Liefeld draws. You wouldn't be able. This is just.
Okay, the problem is that her butt isn't like poking out of the top of his shoulder. Because that's the only way that Rob Liefeld knows how to draw spines, especially women's spines.
Yeah.
Is if they're curving like a snake.
I will give him credit for one thing, and let's give him the credit that Rob Liefeld deserves. His new character is, in fact, pouchless.
Yes, that's a good point.
He is pouchless for now.
Where
does he holster his guns? He needs pouches for his guns, Polly.
He went so far with the no pouches, he forgot to give the guy 2 holsters.
Yeah, Mike makes a good point in chat. His feet do look pretty good, so he has improved a little bit.
I was gonna say, yeah, he actually drew feet, so I've got to give him that. But
well, it does say
can we still acknowledge this whole Red X thing?
Well, okay, hold on. The Red X thing. I mean, it really does look like a cross between Deadpool's outfit and. What's his name's outfit? Cyclops' outfit. Like with the red X across his face that he can see through his visor.
The image I have right here, okay, is Robin from Teen Titans. He's wearing black and red. He's got a red X on his chest, a red X across the top of his helmet. It's just that he has a skull motif on his helmet. Whereas, you know,
I don't know.
Major X here.
You sure that's Robin and not Mundane Matt?
Yeah, no, it's
I mean,
Robin.
it's a similarity quiz, but that's kind of a reach.
That's probably where he got the idea for the character, because he rips off Teen Titans all the time. I mean, hence Deadpool.
Yeah,
but
I say he ripped off Deadpool with Deathstroke. I can see him ripping off Red X here with.
I think the idea came from this, but I think the costume probably came from Racer X or the old X-Men from X Factor. Those uniforms and the helmet from Cyclops.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
We won't know until he confesses to where he stole the idea from.
Well, you know, hold on. I want to finish reading the story because the writing is what interests me. Leifeld will team up with his Image Comics co-founder. I don't know how to say that name. Wilsie?
Willis Portatio?
Willis Portatio. Is that how you say it?
I think so. I don't know.
I'm unfamiliar with this person, and he was an Image co-founder. Like, I thought everybody was famous that had found Image. That's wild.
He was famous.
Okay.
Yeah, he was huge in the 90s.
Along with Brent Peoples, Titans, on art duties for Major X. Okay, so who's the writer? When we were coming up with the team, I said, look back in 1991, I was jamming with two guys, and apparently your lingo stuck in 1991 too. Jim Lee on X-Men and this Portico guy on Uncanny X-Men.
What you talk about, Willis? Just call him Willis.
Willis, okay. And Willis on Uncanny X-Men. We were the three engines running that office in the early 90s when all the launches happened, Leifeld says. So I just reached out and said, Willis, whatever the fuck, I'm having a party. It's called Major X. Could you join? You're such a fool. Look, nobody talks like that.
God.
I sent him the plot. So the sketches you made drunkenly on a cocktail napkin.
Right.
Dude, if somebody told me they had something called a Major X party, I would think they were going to like kidnap and rape hookers.
No, a Major X party is them just ODing on ecstasy.
Well, yeah.
We got Jim Hillis in chat, a guy who's actually written a comic and written it well with a plot and characters and stuff, you know. And for those of you who haven't, go pick up Blue Mamba. It's awesome. And he's just like, so I came up with the plot. Jim, can you imagine what the plot looked like that he sent? I mean, a plot, of course, as we know, isn't the story. It's not the full written thing with dialogue and everything. Not necessarily, anyway. It's just like it's a plot. It's an outline of what you want to happen. Can you imagine what it was like from Liefeld?
I can imagine it would be a lot like a little kid running up to you with some like stick figure sketches. Be like, "Look, I drew this," and you're like,
crayon drawing.
And no
I'll
punctuation.
Put it on the fridge, Rob.
No punctuation. All the clauses are just connected with and then.
It's probably on that script in that form. And then Major X shows up and there's lasers. And then beasts orgasming.
Okay, so they were. I sent him the plot, and we got him for a key chapter in the story. I'm a giant Willie fan. Fans were jamming on him and the stuff he was doing on Uncanny in the 90s when he sent the pages. I could not be more thrilled. It's 1991 again. I'm jamming with Willie. We're making X-Men comics. It's myself, Brent Peoples, and Willie. We are handling the art. I'm the bookends, and then Brent and Willie are the middle chapters. There's a pride of ownership when you go, this is my team. When you go, this is my team. Oh, okay. I see what you're trying to say. We're going to introduce Major X and these new concepts. Marvel gave me 6 issues to tell a story, and I've seen 3 or so far. It's explosive. It's jam-packed. So, Jesus Christ, he's the one actually writing it, and these other 2 guys are kind of like pitching in. That's rough. Because, okay, the idea of him like transporting into 1991, that could almost be done like a Back to the Future 2 thing, where you're going back into your own movie kind of thing. Very meta and interesting. And how's that going to affect? Like, that would be kind of interesting to see Major X back at Uncanny X-Men, or when it was just X-Men Volume 2, number 1. Check Comic Book Curation channel, my channel, for our full review on that Quiz and I did. That might be interesting to see him there through the House of M story and everything like that. But Rob, I hold no such hopes that this guy's going to be able to make traveling through past X-Men stories interesting.
The only way that they can make the House of M good is to retcon it out of existence.
Grilling Pirate Pete says, "What are you doing in there, son? You better not be jamming with Willie in there."
we had a lot. Mike Parlett, Willie and the poor boys out in the street. Willie and the comic boys playing "Bring Your Nickel, Stomp Your Feet." Getting all credence up in here.
Jesus Christ.
Probably the Arnold Drummond of the different Strokes Marvel universe.
Yeah, Strokes, jamming. That's what they meant. Jam until they go blind. Okay, so
right?
High on Major X. The man from Major X. It sounds like a bad 50s movie.
The man from Major X. I get the man from Uncle reference. I get it. Don't I have faith in Rob Liefeld, Vortex S? I don't know where I'd lose faith in. Hey, well, you know what? Not entirely. One of the Christmas thumbnails that I did back in December was a Rob Liefeld drawing. So there.
Yeah, that you had to Photoshop the fuck out of to make it actually look okay.
That's true. I did have to spend about 45 minutes making the woman look human. It's true.
And not like a snake hybrid.
Yes. Where were we?
What, women aren't invertebrates?
Ryan Walters, International House of X. The worst pancake house.
But you don't care, man. Woo!
So that Rob Liefeld can go. What other stories did I want to touch on here? Oh, let's touch on the main story. DC Comics laying people off, because this is like, it's sad, yet expected, yet other things, and it's definitely topical and of interest to Comicsgate, hoping we were wrong in some ways and others not. So here it is. This is the Hollywood Reporter, and everybody launches off of the Hollywood Reporter story. They seem to be the original media asset that was tapped to report this, probably because they would give it the softest hand. Bounding into Comics talks about it. Comicbooks.com talks about it. CBR talks about it. But let's go with the original article that they all reference, the Hollywood Reporter, the one you see on your screen. DC Publishing laying off 3% of its workforce, which, 7 of the company's 240 employees are believed to be affected. Okay, that in and of itself is telling. I know it's like 3% doesn't sound like much. Okay, but like, why are they downsizing? And why aren't they expanding? And realize that all of DC Comics is only 240 people. Like, that's rough. You know what I mean? Like, that's 7 people that are gone. Like, who are they getting rid of, right? I don't think it's janitors and shit.
No, maybe 5 of them were the staff of Border Town.
There's Border Town's writer definitely got axed. Now let's just hope that one of those 3 or one of those 7 was Zoe Quinn, and we can see a non continuation of Goddess Mode. Well,
the other, I hear you, but the other articles that I read on this didn't really touch on the details that I was hoping to find out. I haven't read the original Hollywood Reporter, so I'm going to be reading it with you guys first right now. But what do they mean when they say 240 employees? Do they mean salaried employees, and so therefore temporary contractors don't count because
that's office people?
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so it's like you're terminating office people, which means like executive assistants and so forth, not necessarily creative affiliates, i.e. contractors. But let's find out. Let's see if it addresses that in the original story here. DC is laying off staff as part of an organizational restructure. Remember when we were talking about this, Jim Healis? An organizational restructure striking because of dropping sales. I didn't want it to happen to DC, though. We're talking about what happened to Marvel. Yeah, but those deep goddamn Disney pockets, man.
You know, Jim just said that creators are not employees.
There you go. Like it's like, you know, we can sit here and talk about how, it'd be nice if Zoe Quinn got fired. Yeah, but we're wishes into the wind, man. They're just contractees. Yeah. You know. So DC is laying off staff as part of its organizational restructure of the Warner Brothers division that will see it focus on its original core business of publishing, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. It is believed that the 7 employees, around 3% of DC's 240-person workforce, have been impacted. Layoffs at DC, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, include high-level figures, including the Senior VP Sales Trade Marketing, John Cunningham, VP of Consumer Marketing, Eddie Scannell, and VP of the VP art director, Mark Charelino, Charello, among those who have left the company, according to sources familiar with the matter. Rumors about changes at the company, home to DC, Vertigo, unfortunately, and Mad Brands have been circulating since Wednesday afternoon, helped by early, unsubstantiated reports that speculated that DC publishers Dan DiDio and Jim Lee could be among those leaving the company. No, Jim Lee was fine from
Jim Lee's no.
Not because he's Jim Lee, but because of the position he occupies. Honestly, like Warner Brothers would have had to been some goddamn displeased to have canned his ass or terminated his contract early. Anyway,
they'd have to be crazy too, because think of the backlash that comic book fans would have for that. Like, I don't think Jim Lee is actually, working as a writer, really. I know that he does covers every now and then, but I don't think he's working as a writer. I don't think he's working as an artist.
No, he's not.
He's just, the head of creative development or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
they'd have to be crazy.
By necessity, like, buck stops here, editor. Like, if you occupy that position,
Yeah. They'd have to be crazy to get rid of Jim Lee.
The company has organized into 3 distinct areas as of Wednesday's news: editorial, which will continue to be overseen by editor-in-chief Bob Harris; production and manufacturing, which remains under the purview of Senior VP Manufacturing and Operations Allison Gill; and the newly created Publishing Support Services, which will handle sales, marketing, and promotion for DC product, and will be handled by longtime DC veteran Hank Canales as Senior VP Publishing and Strategy and Support Services. Wow, that guy's got a mouthful of a title, man. That's a $2 handle, to be sure. DC Collectibles, the merchandising arm of the company, will be moved under Warner Brothers Consumer Products toy team. The move comes at the same day as a reorganization of Warner Brothers Consumer Products, in which 10% of the staff will be laid off, sources say. So it was a higher up decision overall, right? You see what I mean? It's like a Warner Brothers on down thing.
Yeah, it sounds like Warner Brothers is also getting rid of some of their staff too.
Yeah, Warner Brothers just got bought by AT&T?
Did they?
See, like some of the other articles that I read,
I thought they were a merger with Time Warner.
Well, no, they got bought by somebody else too.
Oh.
Some of the other articles that I read were merely protectionist of the DC public brand. They were just like, everything's fine, nothing to see here. Like, that was the absolute vibe of them. They were not nearly as detailed as this.
Yeah, AT&T agrees to buy Time Warner, owner of HBO and Warner Brothers.
Peter asks, is Jim Lee Stan's son? Not unless he's adopted. DC moved in it. Jim Lee's Asian, Peter. South Korean, I believe.
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah. DC moved its publishing operations from New York to Burbank in 2015. This past year has included big behind-the-scenes moves, including Diane Nelson stepping down in June as president of DC Entertainment and Warner Brothers Consumer Products after 22 years at the company, a week after Jeff Johns exited as DC president and chief creative officer for a producing deal at DC and Warner Brothers in September. In September, DC launched its streaming service, DC Universe, which will feature original series, comics, and film content of the Warner Brothers library. A DC representative declined to comment. And then here's the official statement as you see it just starting up here. Like the usual corporate speak. Today was a challenging day. We've made organizational changes that will better us and strengthen our vision and our corporate message and blah.
That's not what it says at all.
Yeah, it just we recognize that there are other groups across D not fully dedicated to blah blah blah. Yeah, it's just thank you for your support, hard work, and loyalty to DC.
Right there. Together with Dan and Jim, the executive team, we've spent. Well, you just scrolled. I was gonna say, because of that, it makes me think that Dan Dio and Jim Lee aren't going anywhere.
Well, that was the idea is that they were the rumored restructuring, right? And they're talking about like, is Jim Lee out? And it's because everybody cares about Jim Lee because he's famous with fans. People that are not famous with fans are just going to be like, who cares if they're out? That's why everyone was rumoring if there's changes at DC from like at the executive levels. Does that mean Jim Lee's out? And that was like the rumor. I remember Umbrella Guy was talking about it earlier this week, and it was no. Absolutely not the case. Like you said, together with Dan and Jim and the executive team, we have spent time assessing DC's business. And what this article doesn't assess the Hollywood Reporter is talking about the reduction in sales, which technically means shipped comics, but nonetheless, over the past, especially 2 years, but definitely over the past year, it's rough, man. It's rough, and it makes you wonder. Like, you know, people talk about comic books as a dying industry for everything but manga. Like, that's the only thing expanding. You know what I mean? And Marvel can show a bottom line profit, but as we've talked about a number of times, they're also doing endless number ones that have higher cover sale prices, and they're able to magic that bottom line for the time being, even though they're shipping lower and lower numbers, even on their tentpole titles, which is just, that's rough, man. You talk a lot about the industry being in decline, and I don't know. It's another thing to see it happening.
Well,
you know,
they've only announced 3 titles they're cutting, and that's Titans, Damage, and Scooby Apocalypse. And
really, Titans?
Yeah.
Titans wasn't selling very well.
Apparently not. But there's going to be more to follow. If they're smart, they're going to end a lot of the Vertigo crap they've been churning out, and some of the others lower selling titles.
They're talking about wrapping up Vertigo and Mad and DC proper, like under one of the 3 wings that they've put together. One of the 3 new divisions they put together. Okay, fair enough. Like, I understand it. Consolidation, restructuring. This is what a restructuring looks like. Got it. There's more to Vertigo as a separate imprint than just saying that it is. Like, why are you dumping money into a money hole?
Well, that's the thing. Virtue signaling is costing them a lot of money right now, and they can't afford to be doing that.
Like, why? Yeah. Like, why are you keeping Vertigo afloat at all?
I think they're going to let the first story arcs end on the surviving books and then cancel them.
They've already paid them for their work. You know what I mean? Like,
Vertigo is a good vehicle. It's just that I think that they tried to bank on controversy, and it bit them in the ass on this round, because they didn't do that before. The Vertigo titles that they used to put out before this last Get Woke Go Broke scheme with Zoe Quinn and fucking girlfriend abuser. They didn't do that before. iZombie is an extremely popular book that was collected into $100 fucking omnibus. That was a Vertigo title. Fables was a Vertigo title.
And
Preacher was.
Preacher was very controversial, but they didn't advertise it. They didn't stick it in your face and say, what do you think about that, normies?
Well, yeah, in concert with a whole bunch of other comics that are along the same goddamn line.
Yeah, like Books of Magic, Sandman, the Invisibles, 100 Bullets. They had controversial topics, but they were handled in a mature way. These are attention grabs, so that they can try and cash in on that visceral controversy. And it's shameless, it's pathetic, and it's poorly executed.
Yeah, and Cynical Lindsay saying, like, hashtag get woke, go broke. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's going to cause them to go broke, but it's like, it's such a great line, get woke, go broke, but it's like, get woke, catch a black eye. You know what I mean? Like, at the very least, like, I don't believe a lot of the game companies that came out with, like, game developers that came out with, like, shitty ass games that appeal in terrible ways to, 0.5% of the market.
Well,
it's not going to cause the development company to fail, but it's definitely giving them a black eye and a distaste for whatever product they're coming with next. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing with DC. It's like, what garbage are you going to come with next? We're introducing this new series. Yeah. Is it going to be like Second Coming, where Jesus comes back to Earth, like that Vertigo series Second Coming? Yes, that's a real thing for those who don't know. It's just Jesus. No pun intended. What the hell?
Lindsay's talking here about Preacher. Preacher had social commentary, but Garth Ennis didn't ham-fist it into the name of virtue signaling to the woke crowd. He certainly didn't do that for the Crossed. You know who did, though? Max Bemis. Need I bring him up again? That piece of human garbage, I hope, lives in the rest of his life in a gutter. No, that gutter's too fucking good for him.
All right, let's just do it.
Well,
Jesus.
that's just it. Like, all the good Vertigo titles ended more than a decade ago.
Yes.
Realistically. I mean,
and see, it's still a good vehicle if they did. Well, I'm not sure if Fables didn't end over a decade ago.
yeah, I said all the good ones.
I liked Fables. Fuck you. I even pitched it once here, but yeah, no, it's still a good vehicle for independent books, ones that aren't going to be, part of the DC crowd or a parody, something like that from Mad. It's a good vehicle, but they need to stick with the idea of what it is. It's an independent branch for mass publications. They need to not try to bank on the controversy of the time. And it's hard to say that that's not what they did before, because it kind of was. But at the same time, there was a sort of universality. I don't know, that's not a word. Universal sort of nature to the stuff that they were producing for Vertigo. And you can hardly say that about, nowadays. It's very, very locked in the time and, politics of the time. So I don't know. I think DC needs to take its lumps. It's hard to say, because I don't want DC to go away. Marvel, with everything that they've been doing, especially to my childhood heroes, the X-Men, I don't care if they implode. I don't want that to happen to DC.
So, I've got a hard switch. How many of you expected a Florida Man story on Comic Book Curation?
I did, because I sent it in.
Yes, you're the one that gave it to us.
I was asking chat, Jack. Jesus.
Oh, you didn't specify. I
loved it. It's a Florida Man story. That's great. Florida man arrested after he allegedly tried to sell Batman comics from $1.4 million collection. Cops say the story is frustratingly short on details, but nonetheless, a Florida man was arrested Friday for allegedly stealing a few comic books from a Batman collection worth more than $1.4 million. Philip Weisbauer of Royal Palm Beach was arrested in Arizona. He was charged with theft and trafficking in stolen property after he allegedly tried to sell 4 comic books, ABC 15 reported. The 4 comics Weisbauer allegedly tried to sell were worth more than $100,000 and were part of a collection of nearly 450 comic books, apparently, according to up here, all Batman comic books. Of nearly 450 comic books stolen from a Boca Raton garage. Yeah, that's where you want to keep your priceless collection worth $1.4 million, in a super fucking hot, humid as fucking hell Boca Raton garage.
Yeah, Florida garage. Yeah, that has like fucking the first appearance of Batman. Are you fucking kidding me?
To be fair, the hurricane probably pushed them into the garage.
Yeah, Randy Lawrence, the owner of the collection, is hoping that he gets his comic books back. He admitted. I read that as a comma. That was totally a period. Okay, Randy Lawrence, the owner of the collection, is hoping he gets his comic books back. Stop. He admitted, however, word of the arrest didn't bring him much relief. Any arrest of stolen goods that are confirmed to be mine is a good thing, he told the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. I won't really be able to sleep until everything is returned. He said he hoped the arrest turns up more of his missing comics. Now, see, this guy just looks, I can't believe I'm going to jail for comics.
Looks like he's on meth right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he feels disappointed that he got arrested for comics. He goes, when I think of all the bodies that are buried out there and I got busted for comics.
Yeah. He was just hoping for the good bath salts this time.
And here's Batman, number 1. And was that one of them? You think you would have said that if that was one of, like, they just showed a comic book, like one of the most valuable Batman comics?
Yeah.
Well, if they're worth that much, it's probably some of the older stuff, some Golden Age. It's got to be.
Okay, Vortex says $100,000 comic in a damn garage. Well, it's worse than that. The few comics that Weisbauer stole were worth around $100,000. The whole collection of 450 comics in the garage were worth $1.4 million.
Yeah.
So it's like in a damn garage. And to me, it's just that, like, Do you know what mildew is?
Yeah, right.
Well, I'd be willing to bet money that these were in a refrigerator in the garage, because that's how they used to store a lot of old comics.
In
They
the
put 'em
refrigerator? Really?
Yeah, in a refrigerator to keep them cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
You set the refrigerator low, and it keeps a nice, cool, even environment.
Wouldn't that make the paper brittle, though?
No, you're supposed to keep them in a cool space.
Really?
You don't put it on cold. You're not trying to make ice here, you know.
Yeah, well, it's hard to control that unless you're putting it in the freezer.
It simulates an air-conditioned environment, because if you keep it on cool, but if you do it wrong, it creates condensation on your bag, and then you ruin your book.
Yeah.
See, another thing I find frustrating about this is that I've realized now that all these Florida Man stories read the same way. Like, it's short and to the point and it's supposed to make you laugh. Unfortunately, you know, they're all lacking in some detail I want to know. Like, did Lawrence hire the guy who owned the comics, hire Weisbauer for what? Or did he know him? Was this like his
dude probably just broke into his garage looking for shit to steal?
You think so?
Found the comics. Because, well, yeah, it's easy to break into a garage.
Well, I wanted a story. My pinochle partner said he was going out to the garage to get some sodas, and then I didn't see him for 2 weeks. And then, you know.
But he had a lot of bath salts, and he was like, I'm rich!
I'm rich, bitch!
He bought 2 alligators and was walking them around the neighborhood.
I went out and my comic fridge was open, and I knew I didn't keep sodas in there, so I got suspicious.
He named one Lenny, and it tried to attack some fat lady's cat named Lord Meowington.
Fucking Princess Weeks, no!
Yeah, I was telling Polly before you got on the stream that I got bored the other day and named all of Gail Simone's first 12 cats. So I'm thinking of doing something with that.
Nice.
Just put a picture of sad cat lady after sad cat lady as the names appear on screen. Make it an edited video of some 2 minutes.
Well, one of the toys that I unboxed on my unboxing channel was a cat lady action figure. And it comes with 6 little cats. And I was like, well, I could probably work that into something.
Oh my God. Speaking of cat lady action figures, there's a combination of words I never thought I'd say.
Right?
Have you seen?
He has to set a comic book about Gail Simone's cats.
No. Did you see the Captain Marvel Carol Danvers action figure?
Does it come with cats?
Oh God!
It comes with a damn cat. You think I'm telling jokes? No.
Now I kind of want it so I can name it Lord Meowington.
Oh no, they're going to do covers with cats on them. Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did actually. Yeah. Go ahead, tell that story. That's rough.
There's a link in the live chat for the Amazon.com page where you can buy the cat lady action figure. It's on sale for $12.63 right now, American.
Like, yeah, guys, it's got a damn cat with it. I mean, it's just.
They did this a few years ago.
And she's blonde too. So yeah, this is just Captain Marvel in the future.
Yeah. That's not the Captain Marvel figure. That's the cat lady figure.
No. This is Captain Marvel in the future.
Oh, you're looking. Oh yeah. Sad, lonely cat lady.
Oh, this is literally crazy cat lady action figure.
Yeah.
Okay, totally. No. I'm talking about the new Captain Marvel.
No, but I have been talking about that. That's why.
Well, stop living in the past and stay with us.
No, man. No, the past is safe. Uncomfortable. Outside is scary.
We got to move on to the progressive future, Jack.
Money.
Quit living in the patriarchal colonized past.
Never. Repeal the 19th.
And in response, you throw up your Streamlabs. This you have no sense of timing.
Living in the past. Money was worth more. Anyway, they're going to put cats on the cover of several Marvel books.
They're not worth money. What are you doing?
I'm worth money. I'm hilarious. You all love me. I'm adorable. That's what all my literature says. Don't agree.
I do. I want you to tell Chad about the cat covers. By all means, go ahead.
I forgot where I was going with that now. But yeah, they're going to put cats on the cover of comics because apparently comics are for cat ladies now. That's so
Marvel
desperate
ones are.
of Marvel. I'll see if I can find the article.
There's Peter asks, "What's wrong with cats, motherfucker?" Nothing is wrong with cats. Nothing is wrong with having a cat, even two. What's the problem is that when you're a 40-year-old weirdo cat lady feminist, strange weirdo who has no kids, so gets a whole multitude of cats and dresses the cat up in little clothes and gives it a name like Lord Meowington and et cetera, et cetera.
Meowington. Gail Simone can't have him. He's not real. I want to love him. Yeah. Here we go. It's a bleeding cool article about this. Marvel Comics to run cat variant covers in March. Now the titles are Thor number 11, Wolverine Infinite Watch Neighborhood Spider-Man number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Meet the Skrulls number 2. Then the next week on March 27th will be Daredevil number 3. And I can't scroll down anymore because my internet froze.
Now, what is the story behind that? Is to appeal to crazy cat ladies, or what is the?
I think they actually think it's going to apply to some kind of demographic. I really don't know.
Jesus.
There's really fuck you pop-ups. There's really no good explanation for why they're doing it. They're just weirdos, and they all love sparkly putty tats. Meow meow. I'm going to make a short video about Gail Simone's cats.
At least
or somebody similar to Gail Simone, not specifically her as a real human being.
Yes,
just so I don't get sued.
Yeah, right. Oh man, I think you just fucking derailed my.
Sorry, I have a pretty good habit of that, especially when I bring up Lord Meowington. Everybody loves Lord Meowington.
Fucking love Lord Meowington.
Well, you're really gonna love some of his new friends because, like Mr. Meowface is probably his arch enemy of the other cat. Although he's on pretty good terms with Farnsworth Purrington.
That is almost as good as the Battle Block Theater name. Oh God, what was his name? Lord Purham Furbottom.
Nice.
Oh God. Oh jeez.
I had a friend, Ryan Walters, at General Meow, who actually did call his cat General Meow. He said he didn't want to call him Chairman Meow. He wanted to remember his younger days when he wasn't quite such a tyrant yet.
Yes.
Yeah. So but he never called him either. He called him Cat. Like, hey, Cat, come here,
What's up, Cat?
Yeah.
And say if there's any animal that is a tyrant, it would be a cat. But no. Grill and Pete says those DC does have the Red Lantern cat, Dark Star. It's Dex Star, I think, right? Isn't that
Dark Stars?
Yeah, no, it's Dex Star. Dex Star Wheel. Or no, Dex Star. DEX-STARR.
And he's easily defeated with a little red dot laser.
Yeah, a little red laser dot.
He's coming for us! Quick, get the red dot.
No. I really want there to be a big crossover with the Red Lanterns again, just so that Green Lantern can distract Dexstar by using a hard light yarn ball. But no, okay. Going back to I finally recovered my train of thought.
Sorry,
going back to the whole thing about them doing cat covers for Marvel. I really enjoyed the Looney Tunes covers that DC did. Is this what they're doing? But they don't have any other properties. They're missing an opportunity to sit there and make Disney covers with Marvel characters.
Well,
right?
I'm putting money right now that they are actually going to take real world cats, put them in little costumes of the characters.
Yeah, okay, makes a little
No,
bit more sense.
dude, come on. They're gonna have a fucking like cat's face sticking off the side. It's gonna be drawn.
No, I don't think so, Polly.
We all want to think that, but
I think they're gonna dress these cats up and take photos.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that'll be the cover.
it's
Yeah.
Marvel, so I'm taking the worst case scenario. So if it's not the worst case scenario,
Well,
I'm
you
like,
know,
okay, it's not as bad. And if it is the worst case scenario, I'm mentally prepared. It's sort of like being ready for an earthquake.
Here's a good question for the panel then. What is the best gimmick cover that you ever bought?
The 2014 calendar where they misspelled calendar.
That's a typo, not a gimmick.
A pretty big gimmick.
Like it was good. Like it was actually a good gimmick.
Well, yeah, one that you liked and that you actually wanted to invest in or something.
Oh, Silver Sable #1, where she's in silver chromofoil.
The lenticular, like
no, it wasn't lenticular. It was just chromofoil.
Just the foil embossed.
Yeah, because her outfit is actually supposed to be silver, so it made sense. And then they did it again for Silver Surfer #50, and of course he's supposed to be silver, so it made sense. Like
Yeah, I would probably go with the like my favorite one, or just one I bought because of it was.
Well, just one that you think is I don't know, maybe a good idea or something like that.
I liked the foil ones they did recently. I thought the DC ones that they did, where it was kind of like they had the foil on there and it was slightly embossed. I liked those.
You mean
because
they
didn't raise
Dark
the
Knight's
price?
Metal?
Yeah, they did it with a whole bunch of them. Like Justice League had one, and Damage and Sideways and Silencer. Like almost everybody did one. Supergirl, Catwoman, they all had one of these foil covers. Not necessarily like the lenticulars, but they were actually foil. I liked those. I thought they were really cool because they didn't charge me more money for them. Yeah. Whereas back in the 90s, it was like, give us another $1, you suckers.
Yeah, right.
And with the lenticulars, they were kind of cool, but man, those are not going to hold up because they're too heavy.
That and the lenticular fades.
Yeah. So for collector standards, I would say that those are going to not hold up. But the foil stuff they did recently with DC, I thought was pretty cool. But classically, I would go back to Web of Spider-Man 100, I think it was, where he had the armored costume, and it was that same kind of silver thing. It looked really cool. What about you?
For me, mine's just a little bit more plain. Mine is the alternate cover for Starfire #6. It's the Looney Tunes variant cover. I fucking love it.
Oh, I thought they were going to foil emboss her boobs like they did with Catwoman.
No.
This is cute.
This isn't an Amanda Connor cover or anything, but yeah, I fucking love it. I love the concept.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's got Pepe Le Pew pushing her away.
Well, Pepe Le Pew wouldn't do that.
Well,
Yeah. Hashtag me too, Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah, right? Pepe Le Pew, me too.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been some pretty... I'm not big on variant covers, so they kind of annoy me because I always end up buying a duplicate within the same month because I'm so incompetent at remembering what I bought.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why I keep everything on my smartphone in a checklist.
Yeah, I forget to do these things. So then I'm like, out $4 more for a book I'll probably hate anyway.
Yeah, right.
Being someone who was never a completionist, they were never able to get me with variant covers unless I really wanted it because the art was just so super cool. It was the only variant covers that I ever bought all of them was X-Men Volume 2 #1. That was it. And those weren't really variants. They were all part of a gate. Well, the one gatefold and then the 4 that made up the main cover.
I bought more of them in the 90s when they were actually worth something to pick up the variant covers and then sell them to idiot friends and use that money to buy next week's comics.
So who's like in the Second Coming cover? Speaking of covers.
So dumb.
Yeah, for those of you in chat who haven't seen it, this is one of the Vertigo comics where it's like DC.
Amanda Connor one too. Amanda Connor did that cover.
Yeah,
it's a technically well done cover. I just think the premise is stupid. I have no interest in it. It's not edgy. That's stuff that was edgy in like 1993. Like,
Yeah,
you were 20 years behind the curve on this.
You want to be edgy? Have Muhammad come back. That'd be edgy.
Yeah, like actually have the Sun Man fight Muhammad, and Jesus shows up late because he wanted to fight Muhammad, or have them address female genital mutilation. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to touch on anything remotely edgy. They're just going to piss all over the Christians for no reason, because that's never been done before.
Yeah.
Like I said, edgy for 1993.
Yeah, well, I think that's where Richard Pace is from, one of the co-writers.
Yeah, he's older than I am, and he's not edgy at all. He's one of those pseudo-edgy hanger-ons that hangs out with hipsters because he thinks he's still young and cool. The whole "hello kids, hello fellow children" thing.
That's kind of funny. Cynical Lindsay says, "When did Alan from The Little Mermaid become Jesus?"
Nice. Why is he giving Lex Luthor a piece of bread?
Yeah, it's
or is that Kevin Spacey?
It's the image here, like the juxtaposition, like is a nice piece of art. Like it's like it's well structured in terms of its composition. What it is what bugs me, and like the image of Jesus behind slapping his head, going, "Oh my God," and the whole idea is just how badly everybody on earth has misunderstood Jesus's gospel, and that's why he's back, is to kind of like reteach the gospel and set things right, at least according to the description of how the series is going to go. And it's, oh really, Richard Pace, you're going to inform the world as to your vision of how the gospel should actually go. This should be good.
You know what I'm really worried about is you open that and it's just gonna be full of anti-Semitism. Like it's gonna be a bunch of stereotypical Jewish jokes because Jesus was Jewish.
He was. Well, just full of great things. So I read today another article, and I can't believe it. This is actually still part of the
since we are talking about Amanda Connor covers, this is a brand new one that Jimmy Palmiotti tweeted out today. And all I've got to say is that could actually get me wanting to read Captain Marvel. Just saying.
Who's that old man Rogue's fighting with?
Yeah, right? So long as Rogue puts her back in a coma!
Nah, they're going to do some scissoring. Captain Marvel's going to get her powers back one way or another.
Way to make it awkward, Jack.
Well, make it awkward, huh? Okay, well, here's my Streamlabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I read Captain Marvel issue 1, and that was a mess.
I really like that art, though. I haven't read any of the comics, but
yeah, it was. Yeah, the art, they've been doing a lot better in a lot of areas. I'll give Marvel some credit for that. I know you guys, it's fun to shit all over Marvel, don't get me wrong, because they're an incompetent basket case of dumpster fire kittens. But the new Marvel Comics Presents was really good.
Yeah.
And Conan is fantastic compared to every other Marvel title anyway.
Well, I was seeing the other day talking about how, DC's sales, comparatively speaking to Marvel, have been slumping. But, when it comes to the exactly how many books are put out by each company, Marvel has just been shotgunning it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have 90 fucking titles that they put out every month, whereas DC has relegated themselves to 52. And how many of Marvel's actually sell?
Right? Based on the comic stores I go to, not many.
Yeah, right.
My one comic shop guy only does Marvel by order now. If you don't order it, he's going to get one copy in of 5 books, and that's it.
Yeah. It's like, the only ones that I see, at least on Comixology, that sell are number ones, because of course they do. And well, mainly it's I think they're tricking comic stores into buying them because they're rubes. And the Spider-Man is the only other one that really sells.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. They need to cut back on the number of titles they have and tighten up their continuity a little bit and get rid of a lot of the junk, because they do have some good books. They're just buried in the trash fire of like Squirrel Girls and Captain Marvel and all this other garbage that isn't selling. Captain Marvel's working really well on team books, so leave her on the Avengers, and then she can be an ancillary character. She's not the primary focus, and you can get rid of some of this crap. They need to do that, because when they do churn out a good book, no one sees it, and no one thinks to pick it up because the paper quality is garbage, and no one wants to look like they got it fingerprinted. You still there, Polly?
Yep.
Oh. Are you mad?
No, I'm looking for the Captain Marvel #1 by Amanda Connor that Jim Healis was talking about.
Oh.
I can find it.
Yeah, the Conans were really good. I actually am really impressed. The Marvel Comics Presents was good. Venom's been pretty good. I'm a little behind on it, so I don't know if it's still good. I guess X-Men Annual #1 was good from what I've been hearing from guys at the comic shop. And but they don't promote any of that stuff. They don't say, "Hey, this is, a good book." They don't. They just, if somebody says it's good, they crap all over you.
I think it's the original, because Jim's talking about the original print, Polly, not the a comic of it. I think this is the original print, if I'm not mistaken, right, Jim?
The original art?
Yeah. Like Amanda Connor's original art from this cover.
Oh. Well, everybody was just happy to see boobs on a woman in a Marvel comic, so...
On a Captain Marvel comic.
Yeah.
I still... I choke it out every single time saying Captain Marvel. Because there's only one Captain Marvel to me, and he says Shazam.
Well, I would buy into the guy that could separate his limbs, because he was Captain Marvel. And then there was Marvel. Okay. That was his actual name, Marvel, and he was a captain. Cool. She is Miss Marvel. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Paper Films, too. It's their Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti's website. Yeah, the original pencils is now selling for $18,000. Or rather, on sale for $18,000.
Hey, Polly, you want to buy that for me?
Right?
Next month, maybe.
Oh, cool. You guys heard it. You're all witnesses. He has to buy that for me now. Dead air.
Well, okay, I'll rather say it then. Chaos Eve said Marvel Comic or Inquisitor, Marvel Comics would disagree with you. Marvel Comics can go suck a dick. The only reason why they have access to the name Captain Marvel is because they won a bullshit lawsuit from a judge that doesn't know shit about comic books.
Well, they didn't actually win. Fawcett ran out of money, so they couldn't fight it. That's about winning like Worski won a boxing or an MMA match.
Yeah, right.
It's winning in a technical sense, but not in an actual sense.
Yeah.
But I'm so bummed to hear DC cutting staff and Marvel's not. It just makes me mad. I'm still raging about that.
It's mainly because the one that needs to learn the lesson is Marvel, not DC.
Yeah.
Like DC does. There's some things that DC could do better, but I have more faith in DC actually correcting their behavior so to speak. Because I mean, you know, for all of the shit that we talk about Marvel and DC, DC pays royalties, Marvel doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, there's creator driven content going on at DC. Didn't used to be. I do know that in the 80s and 90s there was a lot of problems at DC about editorial being tyrants over storylines. And then of course there was the whole Death of Superman thing in the 90s that really fucked everything up. And comics really haven't been the same ever since that too. I think you'll find a lot of the I'm not sure if it's just coincidental, but I think you'll find that a lot of the sales, you know, slump started with the Death of Superman.
Yeah, well, that was a massive crossover where they just kind of went crazy.
Yeah,
and
well,
it was everything.
Yeah, the major problem with the Death of Superman is the return of Superman.
Oh man, that went on. That was like the Clone Saga of DC.
Yeah. And fucking Hank Henshaw and
the Eradicated. Did you ever read that, Polly? Did you read the
Death of Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
The return of Superman is the weird one.
I did, but it was so long ago. I might as well say I hadn't read it because it's so
that
vague.
Memorable.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, you think it would be more memorable, but it wasn't.
A lot of people may not like Max Landis, but Max Landis did an amazing retrospective of the Death and Return of Superman on YouTube. I highly recommend that video. It's hilarious.
Who's Max Landis?
Max Landis is the son of John Landis of American Werewolf in London and Kentucky Fried Movie fame. He's also a screenwriter and had recently on Twitter garnered a little bit of controversy for social justice stuff, but he hadn't always been that way. He actually got a lot of backlash from the social justice community by saying that Rey from Star Wars was a Mary Sue. I don't know why. There's some people that really hate Max Landis, and I don't know. I just don't. I don't hate Max Landis, but he does fairly good videos, and one of them is that he also wrote a comic. It's the only Superman comic I've read in a very, very long time. Yeah, Ryan Walters just brought it up, American Alien. I thought the American Alien comic was awesome.
I've never heard of this or this person.
Yeah, American Alien is great. It was essentially DC gave him an opportunity to put his money where his mouth is. Because he was fairly critical of a lot of Superman stories, and then they said, "Well, if you're so good at, if you think you know so much about Superman, why don't you write your own fucking comic book, motherfucker?" And so he did, and I actually really like those comics. I have all of the individual issues and the hardcover paper trade of it.
Have you heard of this guy, Polly?
Yep, Max Landis for sure.
Is he good?
Quiz is right that he's got like a controversial reputation out there. I mean, yeah, and he's got a bunch of contracts and he's written a bunch of stuff that never went into development. What was it? American. Fuck, what was the name of the movie that he wrote?
Yeah, there was one that had Kristen Stewart in it. The big one that he did was Chronicle.
Just movies too? How have I not heard of this guy?
Yeah, he's a film writer. He's a writer, not a director. That's the difference.
He showed up on Red Letter Media one time after they criticized the hell out of him, and so he showed up to show that it was goodwill because he had sent out a tweet that sounded arrogant because he was talking about his American whatever, it's American something film, saying that Hollywood doesn't like creativity, they like reboots and reissues and remakes, and creativity is dead. And they took it for him to be saying that his stuff was so very creative, and so they were mocking him. So he flies all the way up to fucking Milwaukee and films an episode with them going, "No, that's not what I meant. Here's what I meant." And
American Ultra was that movie. But yeah, dude, seriously, I highly recommend his Superman books. He did an amazing job. Here, let me show you the cover of Superman, American Alien #1. It's kind of funny because when he was pitching the idea to people when he was writing it and it was coming out, he was saying like, everyone can write a story about the origin of Superman, but that's not what I want to do. This is not going to be a story about how Clark Kent became Superman. This is a story about how Clark Kent became Clark Kent. And so it's like, 7 stories throughout Superman's life and about how he grew up to become the man that he is. And this is the first issue. This is American Alien #1.
Oh, that's a pretty cool cover.
Yeah, I fucking loved it, man.
Is this young Clark crossing the border?
No. In fact, actually, the whole premise behind this issue is that Clark doesn't know how to control his powers, and he's flying uncontrollably. So you've got John Kent like following after him, like driving the truck, trying to reach out and grab Clark's foot and try to pull him back into the truck.
Oh, I thought you meant like cartoon style with a big butterfly net.
Oh, well, kind of. But yeah, no, it's a really, really awesome series. I highly recommend it if you've never read it. This isn't my pitch, but good God, yeah, if you've not read this comic, it's the last good Superman comic in my opinion. I'm not a very, very big fan of Superman, but I fucking love the American Alien series.
All right, whenever you guys are ready to move on to comic book pitches, let me know.
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
I will go first. Let's see. I was really hoping that this comic book series was in a collected edition. Unfortunately, it's not. And I do tend to like to recommend things that are happening as story arcs that are available in collected editions. But considering how incredibly inexpensive a lot of back issues have gotten, it made me rethink the way of doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you can pitch comics where people can buy 5 comics often cheaper than they can a glossy collected edition. So I thought some of the really great stuff that were like 5-issue story arcs might be worth recommending. This is the first one that I wanted to do of that. Gang War from Amazing Spider-Man.
Classic. I love that one.
Yeah, it happens in Amazing Spider-Man 284, last 5 issues. This is obviously part 1, as it says on the cover. This is what intrigued me so much about Spider-Man Noir, is that Spider-Man Noir, the series, and I had pitched that before, was very street level. It wasn't like Spider-Man fighting cosmic entities or fighting Heralds of Galactus or anything like that. It was very like street level and crime oriented, syndicate oriented, right? It's basically everybody fighting on who's going to be the new kingpin of crime. So you've got all of the guys that want to be gangsters. You see the Rose and Jack-o'-lantern, of course, Hobgoblin, Hammerhead, like they're all there. I really don't want to spoil too much of it. The art is just, this is actually a scan of the original series that I took, and it just screams late 80s art. In other words,
good,
really dedicated use of each page. Like, every panel is filled with something. There's no wasted splash pages, especially double splash pages, anywhere in any of these comics, because that's simply not the way they did it at the time. There's a hell of a lot of story to tell on how Daredevil and Kingpin were going at it, and how these other gangsters, supervillains, thought that they could become the new kingpin of crime, and how they're fighting over it, and the battles that happen back and forth. Silvermane, right? I forgot about him. He gets involved in it. By the time it gets on, moving over to issue number 2, fucking Punisher gets involved, because there's no way, which is just a sweet fucking cover in and of itself. Yeah, there's no way a gang war between supervillains is going to be going down for who's going to be the new crime boss, and our man Frank Castle isn't going to get involved. Of course he is.
Look at that face he's got. He is so excited to be there.
Yeah, right? He's like, motherfuckers, whoever loses, I win.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Like, you know what I mean? It's I'm going to get the chance to pick off, like, the old Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, of course, because he was so well protected, was so good at what he did. I'm going to be able to pick off these guys before they get this big. So it's a golden opportunity from Frank Castle's perspective. Spider-Man, of course, is just doing what Peter Parker always does, out of a sense of responsibility, getting himself in the middle of a situation and trying to fight his way through it and not end up killing somebody. It's and trying to stop someone from becoming the kingpin of crime. And then, yeah, and then the Rose, who turns out to be Kingpin's son later on, is it's just it's story and story and story. It's deep. And if you want something to read that will really engross you in a street level syndicate story, definitely involving Spider-Man Gang War, 5-issue miniseries starting at Amazing Spider-Man 284, and can be had cheap as sin in back issues. Absolutely worth your time. And that's my pitch.
I may have to go.
Great
for that
choice, man. I haven't read that in a decade, but that's a fucking awesome choice.
Do they have
lots
that
of fun.
Do they have that one in trade?
No, that's what I was saying at the beginning. I like to recommend things that are available in trade and collected editions. Unfortunately, Gang War has never been collected from what I can tell, which is a major oversight, if you ask me. But alas.
All the Spider-Man books from that era were good.
Yeah, they really were. And it's, so again, it starts at Amazing Spider-Man 284 if you want to see it. And that'll be in the description, as will the other pitches afterwards if you want to come back and reference later for anything that anyone pitches. And all of our previous ones, as I've said before, Quiz went and researched what we pitched in every episode, and I've included them in the video descriptions for every episode of Comic Book Curation Live, as well as the next day I tweet out the covers as well as the titles of what we pitch, so you can get them either way.
Yes.
So follow Polly on Twitter so you can get that.
Yeah, and I'm simply Polly_Dub, which is also in the description, along with Jack and Quiz's Twitter handles and Jack's other channel.
Yay.
Yeah.
What year was that, Peter asked? That was 1987, if my file folder is correct. 1987.
Wow, I bought those new.
Yeah, Reagan was still president. My God.
Oh, no.
I feel so old sometimes. Who's next?
Oh, well, I'll follow on the heels of that. You're talking about street level crime. Well, I've got one that follows along the same sort of wheelhouse, so to speak. We've mentioned this one a lot, but no one's ever pitched it. It's one that I think does stand on its own. One that definitely everyone should read if they are interested in comics, especially Batman comics. Written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by Tim Sale. My pitch is Batman Long Halloween.
Nice. Absolutely.
This is an anthology series where eventually, like, every single issue deals with a certain villain from Batman's Rogues Gallery. But the overarching story is essentially about how Harvey Dent is trying to take down Gotham's crime families, namely the Falcones. And all throughout Batman's sort of being sidetracked to take care of these Rogues Gallery situations, like in one of them, Joker steals a plane, is going to drop a bomb on Gotham City, so Batman has to go and stop him, and has absolutely nothing to do with the crime families being killed off. But all of the little side crimes from the Rogues Gallery are just sort of red herrings that lead you along, and it comes to that at the end. I'm not sure if I should give that really away. They leave it a little bit ambiguous, but needless to say, it is hands down one of the best Two-Face stories ever written. And if you've not checked out The Long Halloween, I highly recommend it. Don't listen to Jack. Jeff Loeb is a good writer.
Well, he's not stealing Captain America.
And The Long Halloween. Everyone should check it out.
Nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong with The Long Halloween. I mean, if only for the way the art draws you in, and the slow burn of the story it's excellent. It's engrossing. Great pitch. Jack, you're up.
All right. I actually just did a video on this, but I am picking. Oops, that's the wrong one. I'm good at
hardcore.
These Savage Shores. This is by Vault, which is normally a garbage tier company. But this is the story of this guy here. His name is something I can't pronounce. Pierfont, something like that. Who goes to India because he did the murders, and he thinks that he's this powerful being, and he's a little bit of a monstrous bastard. I don't want to give too much away, but he goes to India where there are darker forces at work, and the art is just phenomenal. This is actually a really tiny panel in the book. Most of these are, actually. I really like the art. I mean, look at that. That's detailing there. That's a level of detail you don't see in a Marvel book. But basically, he goes to start his life over, still thinks he's like king of the world. This kid's the prince that he's supposed to be sucking up to as his job at the East India Trading Company. But there are way darker things than this guy there. And it was a lot of fun. Great read, great story. It's told mainly through him writing a letter to a woman that he had to leave behind in England. And it was just, yeah, right? It has sort of the guy that wrote or drew some of the Punisher stuff, like Steve Dillon, meets like sort of a Mike Mignola kind of look. I had to cut out a lot of the interesting stuff because it would give too much of the plot away. But I really like the art style. I thought the story was really well written. It came across as like somebody telling you the story, but then there's this other story running side by side about this Indian woman and her boyfriend. This woman, she's actually a belly dancer, and it's hurting this guy talking, and he's like, yeah, some creatures are born from evil, but I was born from a god. And then they cut back to this guy writing the letter, and he's sort of a poncy British guy who thinks he's way more powerful than he is. So it was a fun story. I was excited to order issue 2 because nobody had it. I actually just found this sitting on the shelf. It came out. It's a third print from a few weeks ago, but I thought it was going to be trash, and I just picked it up because it was $1. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. If you like horror comics, you'll really like it, and the art is really, really detailed and impressive.
Nice. And a different style art. I like that.
I really did like the art.
Yeah, I thought you guys might like it.
And it was the Savage Shores?
These Savage Shores.
Nice. All right, and there it is.
Yeah, because I know you like noir stuff, Polly. I thought it's a little different from what I've seen you pitch, but I think you might like this one.
Yeah, anything that gets me away from the big two is a good idea. It's like I know that stuff mostly, so I'm happy to see smaller producers stuff as well. You said that was from Vault, right? Yeah,
ironically, because they're terrible. They are a huge social justice company, but
isn't that where Heather Antos just went?
No, she works for Valiant. It's where like Tamara Bondvillain does a lot of work for Vault.
Okay.
And apparently they don't really pay their creators a lot. Umbrella Guy did a video on it. You probably saw.
Yeah, maybe that's where I'm thinking of Vault recently from then. Vault, Valiant got them mixed.
Not much difference really. They're both kind of garbage tier. But yeah, I thought you guys would be interested in it because I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I don't normally... I've been reading more horror comics because that's really what the guy at the comic shop orders a lot. And I've been liking some of them. And this one was a real fun one. I really think you should give it a shot if you can find it.
Yeah, Peter just talked about the Telltale games. They are great. If you don't know about them, you should absolutely check them out. I mean, they're not games exactly, and they're not choose your own adventure exactly, and they're not comics exactly. They're kind of like this wonderful mix of all of them. I think they're great. They look fantastic.
They harken back to like a point and click adventure game. And I was just about to type out to him. If you've not checked out the Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Within is the Gabriel Knight 2 subtitle. Wolf Among Us. Look up that one for Telltale. You dig the shit out of that one, and that one has to deal with fables. And that I love that one. It's great.
I never played any of the Telltale games.
Yeah,
their three biggest ones all deal with comic books.
Yeah.
I heard the Batman one's good. Is it?
Batman one, the Walking Dead one, and the Wolf Among Us. All three of them I loved.
I just watched a playthrough because I don't have a PS4, but I love the playthrough. You know,
Yeah,
that's why you can get Streamlabs, Polly, so people can give you money to fundraise for your PS4.
Well, you have a PC, and they run really nice, even on a potato.
No, I didn't know that.
They are not graphically intensive at all.
Oh, I thought they were PlayStation specific. I had no idea.
No.
I thought they were PlayStation specific too. I've never seen anyone actually play them on anything but a PS.
I have them all on my computer.
Sweet. There we go. So Peter comes in with a pitch from chat. I love it. I love it.
He even said so too.
Yeah, exactly. That's I hadn't ever thought of like, okay, chat, what are your pitches? I mean, no, that's interactivity.
Yeah, during chat time, we should have them tell us some comics we should read.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like good ones, not garbage.
I don't know if I've got the what's the right way to put it? The confidence that chat's even going to have any questions. That's why I don't do chat time like Lords of the Night does. Like they're interesting people. People want to ask them questions, and it's like, why do you stream so long and never on time, Polly? And it's like, those are the kind of questions that I don't want to answer.
You don't abide by your colonialist time schedule, people.
And speaking of which, this stream has now run its course and come to an end, and unfortunately Prospero comes in at the very end, and that's too bad. But as with all of our streams, we don't take them down, unlike Umbrella Guy. But yeah, I understand his reasons, though. He doesn't want to leave them up for anti-Comicsgate reasons, and that makes sense. Yeah. I get it. It's just it's just annoying when you miss it. You've completely missed it. You know what I mean? It's too bad.
Somebody's got to ruin it every time.
Yeah, damn right.
Fucking lunatics, man.
Yeah. But in any case, once again, guys, I apologize, chat, and those listening in the future, for not streaming this Wednesday, but I was really sick, and I'm still having the last remnants of it hanging on. But I am really happy that the number of you that did show up here this Friday did. And Jack and Quiz, thank you for rescheduling with me. I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's fun.
There's something else I want to mention. What the hell was it? Well, could have been that important. I can't remember now, but that could just be the medication kicking in again. Oh, I remember what it is. A lot more people, especially you people in the future, and anyone who's listening right now, if you feel like commenting below, because I really enjoy reading all the comments, and I do read all of them, and I get a chance to respond to most, if not all of them. And if they're directed at Jack or Quiz, if they don't see them themselves, I direct them towards them. If they want to respond, they will, and generally do, almost always. So yeah, by all means, comment what you like, what you didn't, what you question, what we got wrong, because it's an infinitely nerdy genre, and we're going to get stuff wrong, and there's going to be nerdier people than us that are going to say, well, actually, and those are the kind of things we actually want to hear, because like we'll fight you out on it, man, if we think we're right.
Yeah, right.
In any case, thank everybody for listening.
Here's the thing, though. We can admit when we're wrong too. It's just that I'm never wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm never so much wrong as I am occasionally mistaken. It's different.
That's true.
Yeah. So on that note, gentlemen and everybody else, have a good night, and we will see you next time. Hopefully, no, it'll be Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, or as close to it as we can possibly manage. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.